the first time I saw him. That's not the first time I met him.
Ever since then, we've been doing this. At clubs all over the country.
Came up at a time where we learned this whole thing together. We went through all this together.
He don't want to fight me. I got hands. This furniture started moving, Jimmy. He don't want to fight me.
Shockingly, Arsenio Hall just fired off some serious shots at those allegedly trying to push Eddie out of the game.
And I always thought third base crossed a little bit.
Yeah, they're a little more on the underground side.
Okay, because you know the stats more than me.
Yeah.
I mean, people I love, just because I love them doesn't mean they cross.
Word on the street is that Murphy's been making some big revelations about the industry's dirty secrets, and it's ruffling the wrong feathers.
I don't know what's gonna happen now, because I suggested to him, I said, you know, they have a drive-in here, and you can do stand-up, and people blow their horns when it's funny.
Now, rumors are flying that Eddie's being blackballed and Arsenio. Yeah, he's not sitting quietly. He's sending a clear warning. But why would Hollywood turn on Eddie Murphy now? What exactly did Eddie uncover that's got some folks this nervous? Let's find out. Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall aren't just comedy partners on screen. They're best buds in real life, too. Their friendship goes way back, almost 40 years, starting when they were just a couple of up-and-coming comedians hustling in LA. They first met thanks to Keenen Ivory Wayans, and ever since, they've been tight. Through all the highs and lows life has thrown at them, these two have always had each other's backs.
Keenen Wayans called me and said, why don't you meet us at the Improv? Because Keenan's a New York comic, and they were friends with Eddie. And he said, Damon, my brother is coming. You haven't met Damon.
Murphy and Hall's comedic chemistry has given us some of the most iconic moments in film. So when Eddie Murphy was set to be inducted into the NAACP Hall of Fame, it was a no-brainer for Arsenio to step up and honor his longtime friend. Both of them are legends, not just in Black culture, but in the world of comedy as a whole.
Keenen heard that story and introduced us. And the first thing Eddie ever said to me in Murphy fashion, he looked at me and he says, nigga, you don't look like me.
Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall's friendship goes way beyond the cameras. Their bond is the real deal, so much so that Arsenio is the godfather to Eddie's eldest daughter, Bria. Having Arsenio as your godfather, now that's a whole new level of cool. Back in 1988, Eddie was one of the biggest stars on the planet, riding high with a string of hit movies. Meanwhile, Arsenio was making waves too, guest hosting The Joan Rivers Show and leading The Late Show on Fox. That same year, the two teamed up for the classic Coming to America, creating comedy gold. Not only did they shine as Prince Akeem, Murphy, and Semi, Hall, but they also killed it playing unforgettable side characters like Randy Watson and Reverend Brown. Fast forward over 30 years, and the magic was still alive when they reunited for Coming to America, bringing back those iconic roles and all the wild alter egos for a whole new generation to enjoy.
You know, but that's a great way to promote the movie. I even had a title, Coming All Over America. And I thought that would be a perfect title. And he loved that.
Beyond their unforgettable roles in the Coming to America movies, Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall scored another comedic win with the classic Harlem Nights. One standout moment is when Murphy's character, Quick, becomes the prime suspect in the murder of Tommy Smalls, a thug working for a rival gangster. Hall steals the show as Smalls' heartbroken brother, delivering one of the film's funniest scenes. His over-the-top crying and the way he fumbles with his partner's tiny gun is pure comedy gold. Honestly, Hall's performance was so good, it probably deserved an Image Award all on its own.
That's basically what the movie's about. And I kill Arsenio.
He's not for real. You have to see the movie. He's not really dead at the movie.
During Johnny Carson's reign on The Tonight Show, Black America found its own late-night king with the Arsenio Hall Show. From January 3rd, 1989 to May 27th, 1994, it was must-watch TV. Arsenio brought the biggest stars to his couch and stage, musicians, actors, and icons. And with Eddie Murphy as one of his closest friends, the show was always stacked with star power. Whether Eddie was promoting a new project or just dropping by to joke around, you could always count on good vibes and laughs. As Auntie Dionne Warwick would say, that's what friends are for. Back in the late 80s, when Murphy rocked leather suits and Hall sported his signature flat top, the two joined forces to create the Black Pack. "We have a group I like to call the Black Pack," Murphy once said. "We hang out, share ideas, and inspire each other." This crew was made up of some of the era's most talented creators: Murphy, Hall, Paul Mooney, Robert Townsend, and Keenan Ivory Wayans. These guys weren't just comedians, they were writers, producers, directors, and actors who reshaped Hollywood. And let's be real, the name Black Pack oozed cool. Now, Arsenio is standing strong, proving that no one can push Eddie Murphy out of the industry, period. Protecting the legacy of Black comedians has always been bigger than just one person. It's a shared mission. Hall has carried that torch for years, making sure Black comedic talent gets the respect it deserves. But lately, it seems Arsenio is feeling some frustration with how things are unfolding. There are rumors he's disheartened by what he sees as setbacks, with figures like Tyler Perry, who he feels might be compromising progress, leaving him questioning the state of the movement.
I'm black! I'm the biggest minority you know about. I don't want to hear that gay trash, man. I got gay friends I've had on the show. Because you don't know them or it ain't who you want on the show, you got a problem with it?
Back in the early 90s, when a lot of Black comedians were following in Richard Pryor's footsteps, Arsenio Hall carved out his own lane with a style that had something for everybody. With that big smile, tons of energy, and a knack for breaking down life in a way everyone could vibe with, his comedy hit across all kinds of audiences. From 1989 to 1994, during his show's first 5-year run, Arsenio did more than just crack jokes. He gave the Black community a seat at the late-night table, something that was seriously missing at the time. His show wasn't just funny, it gave a voice to people and stories other shows ignored, making Arsenio a real game-changer in the entertainment world.
This is cable, so I can say it like I really felt. That's a plain boy. That's what I really felt, you know? Magic, you see him do to people.
During a time when late-night TV was ruled by Jay Leno, Johnny Carson, and Conan O'Brien, the Arsenio Hall show came through and changed the game for artists of color. Back in the late 80s and early 90s, hip-hop culture didn't get much love, usually squeezed into short spots on shows like Yo, MTV Raps. Even with heavyweights like NWA and Tupac making waves, mainstream media mostly painted them as troublemakers. But Arsenio's show flipped the script. He gave Black artists, like Eddie Murphy, Michael Jackson, Will Smith, and Snoop Dogg, a space to do their thing on their terms. No censorship, no sugarcoating. It wasn't just about music or laughs. It was about showing the world these artists in their most authentic form.
What do you hate most about show business?
I don't hate anything about show business. I don't hate it. I love what I do.
Despite all his hard work, it seems like Black celebrities are still facing attempts to be blackballed in Hollywood. And when it comes to his best friend, Arsenio Hall isn't about to stay silent. Eddie Murphy recently dropped a major truth bomb about how the industry has treated Black actors over the years. He pointed out that Hollywood has intentionally created rifts among Black performers, choosing to stir up drama instead of fostering unity. Murphy hinted at some sneaky tactics that have been used to keep this division alive, mentioning some behind-the-scenes actions that have contributed to this harmful separation. His remarks highlight a troubling reality. Instead of coming together, Black actors often find themselves pitted against each other. Murphy believes that these negative dynamics have become so ingrained that they're affecting the next generation of Black actors, making it even tougher for the community to stand strong together.
I ain't say I mean, I ain't in it. Huh? What sucks? Reaganomics sucks? Or tell us something we don't know.
Imagine Eddie Murphy teaming up with Jordan Peele for a new project, or Jamie Foxx and Denzel Washington starting their own production company together. It's kind of wild, though, that we've never really seen Eddie and Spike Lee work together throughout their careers. Both of these guys are big names in Hollywood, and it seems like a lot of influential Black creatives today are in the same boat. They're holding back from collaborating because they worry that if they team up, Hollywood might mess with the successes they've built on their own.
To make it, you gotta bust your Black. You gotta be relentless. You gotta persevere. You gotta be focused.
There are all sorts of theories out there suggesting that Eddie Murphy has been in over 50 movies in just 5 years, yet only a handful of them feature a black director. This kind of highlights the tricky dynamics in the industry and might shed some light on why Spike Lee and Tyler Perry haven't worked on a project together. You can see a similar vibe with Will Smith and Denzel Washington, who also haven't teamed up for a bunch of films, kind of like how Al Pacino and Robert De Niro have done.
It was wise. Especially that we are meeting kind of for the first time. That's important. So yeah, that does help.
The reason Spike Lee and Eddie Murphy haven't collaborated seems to go a lot deeper. Right now, there's a growing global awareness about the vulnerability of Black lives, thanks to systemic issues that have led to some pretty troubling outcomes. With the rise of the Black Lives Matter movement, more and more people are starting to see the need for real change. And a big part of that is empowering economic influence. It's all about making a difference and using their platforms for something greater.
The president of the Canadian Black Chamber of Commerce says more businesses are seeking her help.
This growing awareness has sparked a strong push to support Black-owned businesses, which helps keep wealth circulating within the Black community. While this emphasis is new, the idea itself isn't exactly groundbreaking. In his book, Power Dynamics, Dr. Claude Anderson talks about the importance of looking at how Black Americans spend their money. At the end of the day, the message is clear. It's crucial to keep Black funds under Black control.
Black folk fail to understand that that schools are not change agents. They're only doing what the environment wants it to do. Schools in this country, starting in the 1860s, were designed.
This leads us to Spike Lee's emergence in the early 1980s, as he embarked on crafting his own identity in the industry. During this time, he openly criticized not only Eddie Murphy, but also other Black individuals within Hollywood for failing to establish pathways for others akin to themselves. In a 1989 interview with Rolling Stone, Murphy offered his response to these allegations. Spike Lee had expressed his belief that Murphy might have overlooked using his clout to advance the presence of Black individuals in influential roles, particularly within Paramount.
Don't you think I realize what's going on here, miss? Who do you think I am, huh? Don't you think I know that if I was some hotshot from out of town that pulled inside here?
He further said, "They were to me on Saturday Night Live a couple of times after I'd left the show. They said some things. I made a stink about it. It became part of the folklore. What really irritated me about it at the time was that it was a career shot. I felt about it for years, but now I don't have none of that." Eddie Murphy and Spike Lee seem to adopt distinct approaches in addressing racism within Hollywood. Interestingly, during the production of Do the Right Thing, there were instances of Murphy visiting Lee on set. However, in a 1989 appearance on the Arsenio Hall show, Murphy playfully extended their friendly rivalry by humorously referring to Lee as a cricket, adding another layer to their dynamic.
I love Spike Lee. I seen Spike come on the show last week, and women said, "Wah!" And Spike looks like a cricket.
A year later, the two men engaged in a direct conversation regarding their respective stances. Their viewpoints seemed to align with the different approaches of Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. In a one-on-one interview featured in Spin magazine, Lee and Murphy delved into their ongoing feud. Lee expressed the notion that Eddie Murphy had the potential to exert greater influence toward change.
He's a brilliant filmmaker. His movies are brilliant. He's hysterical. He's wonderful on camera. But Spike is not fine.
During the middle of the interview, Murphy openly shared his candid perspective on why he believed there was a lack of collaboration among Black individuals in Hollywood.
Because I think Black people aren't the most unified people on the face of the earth. We got to get everybody's schedule together.
Everybody says it's cool, but that doesn't ever come.
In a contemplative manner, Murphy pointed out the existence of various groups within the community. He remarked on the apparent division prevalent among people of the same race, highlighting that historically, this division was imposed rather than inherent. Referencing the era of slavery, he alluded to instances where united groups of slaves were purposely disbanded. Fast forwarding to the present, Murphy noted that when a Black individual achieves success, there's often a tendency to isolate oneself and claim ownership of accomplishments. He attributed this hesitancy to unite to an underlying fear of jeopardizing personal equilibrium in the pursuit of collective collaboration.
We got all this hooked up for Black people. Chinese people fucked all around because they got little and little.
Murphy emphasized that this inherent division isn't a conscious choice, but rather ingrained. He underscored that this fearfulness was a product of the apprehension white individuals have towards black individuals. Recounting a personal encounter, he shared an incident involving Mike Tyson. During a gathering at Eddie Murphy Productions, Murphy found himself in the company of Mike Tyson and Don King.
Stay tuned for more of the Sammy Davis Jr. tribute honoring the one heavyweight I would never dare step into the ring with.
Reflecting on his workplace, where his managers were the only white employees, the trio delved into a discussion about white people and government matters. Strikingly, the conversation took a whispered tone, a phenomenon Murphy attributed to the deep-seated apprehension that the influence of the white man had instilled, leading even to discreet discussions within one's own abode.
They doing it. The way they walk, they be walking all light because they ain't got no pulling them down.
The long-awaited classic interview finally gave both Spike Lee and Eddie Murphy a chance to clear up the misunderstandings between them. But it took over a decade for any signs of a possible collaboration to surface. During that time, Spike landed a role in a James Brown biopic and even thought about bringing Eddie on board. Unfortunately, Spike's time with the project was cut short when director Tate Taylor stepped in to take over. Fast forward to 2014 when Chadwick Boseman ended up taking the lead role in the movie instead of Eddie Murphy. Even though we still haven't seen a film collaboration between Murphy and Spike Lee, the talks have kept popping up. Back in 2011, there were reports that Murphy was set to play former DC Mayor Marion Barry in a biopic directed by Spike for HBO. But Spike ultimately changed his mind and didn't go with Murphy for the role. It's interesting to note that Murphy has previously pointed out the unique challenges black folks face in Hollywood, which has fueled efforts to create a more authentic black Hollywood scene.
Every time you see a brother in a wheelchair, he ain't always crippled. You got this hanging down.
Back in 1988, Paul Mooney wrote an article in the Los Angeles Times that revealed Eddie Murphy, Robert Townsend, Keenan Ivory Wayans, and Arsenio Hall's effort to come together as the Black Pack. The reasons behind the collapse of this initiative aren't entirely clear, but Murphy's chat with Spike in Spin magazine shed some light on why they might not have been able to make it work. With protests happening in the streets today, it's a perfect time to think about how those messages could transition into filmmaking. It raises some important questions about how to tackle racism on screen. Should it be done in a subtle way, or should filmmakers go all out and make their voices heard?
Even they did have some skills, they were still enslaved.
However, Eddie's fans have supported him with every possible power. One of them wrote, "Blacklist Eddie Murphy. He is comedy. Without him, Hollywood would have been dead long ago without those movies he made." Another one added, "Is Eddie Murphy still my favorite comedian? Besides, Richard Pryor, very talented guy. And Dave is a close third. Oh, and don't let me forget George Carlin. That man was a genius. Over the years, many black comedians have opted to wear dresses to get a laugh. The sight of a tall guy in heels is automatically funny, but there's more going on beneath the surface. This trend has led a lot of black male comedians to embrace cross-dressing for comedic purposes. But what's the real cost of this kind of humor? As Dave Chappelle pointed out,
it's like when I see that they put every black man in the movies in a dress at some point in their career, I'll be connecting them down like, wow, all these brothers gotta wear a dress.
During a recent appearance on Oprah's show, comedian Dave Chappelle asked a really interesting question. He wondered why so many successful black male entertainers have resorted to cross-dressing at some point in their careers. Take Martin Lawrence, for example. He became well known for his lead role in the Big Mama's House series. Likewise, Eddie Murphy included a female character among the many roles he played in his Nutty Professor films. It raises some important points about the industry and the choices these comedians make.
This happened to me. I'm doing a movie with Martin.
Yeah.
The movie's going good. So I walk in the trailer. I'm like, man, this must be the wrong trailer because there's a dress in it.
Jamie Foxx left his mark with the unforgettable Ugly Wanda persona on In Living Color, whereas Marlon and Shawn Wayans embraced gender reversal for their roles in White Chicks. Additionally, the ill-fated Juwanna Man movie from a few years back remains a chapter we may wish to put behind us.
I'm here! Ooh, that girl get around.
Really?
Just you and me, right?
Amongst these instances, one figure stands out as the most prominent cross-dresser of our time, Tyler Perry. Known not only for his entertainment ventures, but also for his right-wing evangelical influence, Perry's Medea franchise has achieved considerable success and recognition.
On Black Friday.
What the hell is Black Friday? Every Friday is Friday. I'm black. That's a Black Friday. What you talking about?
While Tyler Perry has carved a prosperous path within the gospel play realm, he's effectively extended his triumph to the film industry, bringing his contemporary portrayal to a larger cinematic canvas.
No, it's a stage play. It's like Broadway, just with black people.
Remarkably, his latest book, Don't Make a Black Woman Take Off Her Earrings, even secured a spot on the prestigious New York Times bestsellers list. This prompts an inquiry: what underlies this phenomenon? Why do these artists engage in acts that seemingly emasculate themselves? And why does the audience eagerly embrace the spectacle of the black man being subjected to such humiliation? The portrayal of black masculinity in a more feminine context could potentially lead to a perception of reduced threat and increased ease for certain individuals. Such cross-dressing depictions of black men might function as a way to counterbalance the dominant and forceful image commonly associated with hip-hop culture. Over the span of several years, it's been reported that Hollywood played a significant role in perpetuating various stereotypes, unfortunately contributing to the shaping of public perception about black individuals for a significant part of the audience. During this time, a debate emerged, suggesting that due to the limited opportunities within the entertainment industry, black artists often felt compelled to take on stereotypical roles as a way to sustain their livelihoods.
A weak person cannot get to sit here and talk to you.
Although the entertainment industry hasn't fully reached a state of racial equality, present-day performers do have a certain level of control over their choices. What remains puzzling in the context of these current figures is their seeming openness to adopt cross-dressing roles, with Kevin Hart's name particularly prominent in this regard.
Pope Conventionate is lifting her arms into her signature muscle man pose.
Many people have come out to express that they are opposed to witnessing further instances of black men in dresses, with the belief that this phenomenon has run its course. Supposedly, our society is already influenced by numerous factors seeking to undermine the masculinity of black men, and there's no need to contribute to these forces in any way.
When things happen that can possibly affect your brand, your brand can be diminished, and you don't want that to happen. So, protecting my brand is definitely a priority.
People have expressed that they are opposed to witnessing further instances of black men in dresses. This phenomenon has run its course. Our society is already influenced by numerous factors seeking to undermine the masculinity of black men. There's no need to contribute to these forces in any way.
I was like, no, I'm gonna look stupid. At the end of the day, you gotta know that you're a brand.
Eddie has also talked about the alleged hidden Oscar contracts. Eddie Murphy has only received one Oscar nomination, and it was for his role in Bill Condon's musical Dreamgirls. Murphy himself has acknowledged in interviews that he may not have exerted as much effort in that film as he does in most of his comedic roles. One performance that continues to be critically examined in hindsight is his work in The Nutty Professor, where he used makeup and prosthetics to portray the entire Klump family. A similar technique was applied in the Coming to America films, particularly in the iconic barbershop scene.
I ain't saying clean bad. I'm just saying I stopped liking Cassius Clay, want to change his name to Muhammad Ali. What kind of is that?
During a conversation with Coming to America director Craig Brewer on the Real Blend podcast, we brought up Murphy's repeated snubs by the Academy, and Brewer shared his insights on why this pattern persists. He said, "It really bothers me, and I feel that it's even more stilted against Eddie because the problem that I think people have with Eddie is that they think that it's easy for him. I'm sure there are many things in Eddie's life that feel easy, but what people don't know is what I see, which is him sitting in his chair, in makeup, he's putting on music, he's getting into a place, he's rehearsing these lines. You see him where he doesn't fool around on set. When you're in between takes, he goes to his chair and you see him get into this trance where he is working and working and working. There's craft there." And I worry that people think that oh well, Eddie's just showing up and being funny like he's always done. And that's just not true. Yes, he's showing up and being hilarious, but it's not like he's just flipping a switch. Fans believe that it's indeed an unjust evaluation of comedians, and Eddie Murphy is not the sole funny individual to be overlooked due to the Academy's reluctance to fully recognize comedic talents. One person wrote on the internet, "No one ever said Hollywood had morals." The award bid is true. The 1995 movie Heat had one of the most realistic gunfights ever filmed, and it didn't even get a nomination for the Oscars. Another one added, "For award shows, it's also about campaigning and which studio will spend the most money to wow the jury, like Weinstein famously did. And you didn't talk about the pedophilia problem concerning child actors." These sources suggest that the hidden powers of the industry are trying to blackball Murphy. However, it seems like Arsenio will never make this happen to his friend. That's it for today. See you in the next video. Until then, goodbye.